Tolbert, Norman, or Ezekiel Tolbert. I am the son of A.B. Tolbert, Adolphus Benedict Tolbert, which was the former House of Representatives here in Liberia, and the son of President Tolbert.
All right, let's talk about today's events.
Okay, so today's event at Center Street Cemetery was to commemorate and honor the 13 cabinet members who got killed on the polls after the April 12th coup. And many of the family members for the last 44 years all gather at Center Street Cemetery, and we have a memorial service in honor of President Tolbert and his cabinet members.
How did you feel sitting there today and those names are being called?
I remember as a little boy, the night of the coup, I wanted to spend the night at the executive mansion. And I remember fighting the driver because Mom Christine told the driver, go grab Ezekiel and put it in the car. And I was like, no, I want to spend the night, But as fate would have it, the same night that I wanted to spend the night was the night the coup happened. So I was fortunate not to be there.
Let's talk briefly about what that event did to the country and also what it did to your family.
Okay, so President Tolbert was a statesman. He was the chairman of the OAU. He was the president of the Baptist World Alliance. And as Uncle Richard so eloquently put it, he had many of international friends who were Pan-Africanists. And there were also presidents and heads of states of other African countries. And losing someone of his intelligentsia and his leadership hurt Liberia, including the Pan-African movement, because he was chairman of the OAU at the time. And Liberia in 1979, 1979 or 1978, hosted the OAU conference here in Liberia. And in 1979, the first time we ever had a president of America come to Liberia and help galvanize patriotism and support for President Tolbert's policies.
So some say that President Carter's visit, or the fact that Tolbert made him come here, meant it contributed to his situation as well, thinking that he didn't want to come here. He was trying to sneak into Africa and go back. The fact that Tolbert made him, and this is all according to Ujoma Fliberster's article.
I think that my grandfather was trying to be very diplomatic and at the same time put Liberia on a different trajectory than his predecessors, and help Liberia in terms of becoming more self-sufficient, self-reliant, and independent without trying to ruffle too much international feathers or put us in a predicament that we couldn't handle.
Can I give you a list to read off all the names of the people that were buried at that place today? It's on the program, right? Can you give? Yeah. I just want him to run down that list.
Okay, so the men who were killed on the polls today was Honorable Dr. Cyril A. Bright, Honorable Joseph J.F. Chesson Sr., Honorable C. Cecil Dennis Jr., Honorable Richard A. Henry Sr., Honorable Charles D.B. King, Honorable D. Franklin Neal Sr., Honorable P. Clarence Parker III, Honorable James T. Phillips Jr., Honorable James A. Peer, Honorable John W. F. Sherman, Honorable Frank J. Stewart Sr., Honorable Frank E. Tolbert Sr., Honorable E. Reginald Townsend. The other men who were also killed was Honorable H. Carey Thomas, Honorable A. Benedict Tolbert, my father, General Charles E. Raleigh Jr., General Emmett W. Cooper, Commander Varney E. Dempster, Commander Spurgeon Capehart, Captain Gabriel Moore, and Lieutenant Railroad Vesley. Those were some of the people that got killed, including the 13 men that got killed at the polls.
When you hear those names, what kind of a loss do you think the country encountered?
I'm not a economist, and
Historian.
I don't study economic or commercial systems, but I do know that and Uncle Richard can correct me if I'm wrong, in 1979, the Liberian dollar was trading 1-to-1 to the US dollar. Dollar for dollar. 1-to-1. Right now, as I'm sitting here, the Liberian dollar to one US dollar is 193 Liberian dollar to one United States dollar. So, the level of inflation, that have gone up has pretty much made living in Liberia very challenging, especially for the youth of Liberia. And if the youth of Liberia will have a brighter future, then we definitely have to begin to look at microeconomics and find a new strategy in which we can strengthen the Liberian dollar.
Okay, last question for you. Describe the pain of growing up without your father.
So I have a prophetic calling on my life. Some would say is rather highly spiritual. I lived in America for 33 years. When the coup happened in 1980, Mom Christine was placed under house arrest, and she and her children were also under house arrest. And she felt that it was best to get the children out first, since the country has become very difficult to live. And in January of 1981, myself and her firstborn son, Carney, left Liberia and we went to America. And I lived in America. I went to college in America. I went to high school in America. I graduated from North Carolina Central University. And I worked in corporate America and had many, many profound spiritual visions. And there was a time that the Spirit was saying, Ezekiel, it's time for you to come back home. After 33 years, it's time for you to come back home. And many of my friends in America was like, man, you don't want to go back to Liberia. There's no running water. A lot of the roads are messed up. The electricity is not stable. You're going to be faced with a lot of difficulties and challenges. Unlike America, you got everything right here. Why would you want to go home? And so I was on the fence about whether I should return home or continue to live and stay in America. And one night I had a dream. And in my dreams, the angels started singing the Liberian national anthem. And they were singing the national anthem of Liberia so loudly that I could hear it. Like, even though I was asleep, I was conscious that there were people standing in my room singing the Liberian national anthem. This glorious land of liberty shall long be ours. Though knew her name, green be her fame, and mighty be her powers. Such was this crescendo of the angels that I awoke and I could still hear them singing in the room. It was then that I decided it's time for me to go home. After 33 years living in America as an exile from my homeland, it's time for me to go home. And despite all the fears, I came home. And what came to me when I got at Roberts International Airport was that when I walked and I looked at, it was late 2017, the airport was in shambles. And I thought to myself, Ezekiel, the dry bones are not the blacks in America, but in fact, the blacks living in Africa, especially Liberia, the land of your birth. That's where the dry bones are. And the fact that I lost my dad, in the Tolbert family, there were always other uncles that stepped in and took up the slack of those who were killed on the poles or those who were executed in secret. So Lawrence Norman and J.U. Richardson and so many other uncles came into our lives, the younger men, and played very supportive fatherly roles for us.
Well said. Introduce yourself one more time, and then tell me that you give me permission to use your video, your interview as part of this video.
Okay, so my name is Ezekiel Tolbert. I'm the son of A.B. Tolbert, and you have all my permission to use the.
Let me ask you one more question, right? What do you think would have happened if April 12th never happened?
If April 12th never happened, I believe that Liberia would be the apple of West Africa and the champion spearheading Pan-Africanism and African unity. And that the blacks in America would have, rather than going to Ghana in a year of return, they would have came to Liberia at least, I say anywhere between 1985 and 1985 and 1990 would have been a serious repatriation movement of blacks in America coming to West Africa.
Well said. Real quick. Let's go. Get ready for Ernie Bruce. Thank you. Let's see, 15 minutes.